All right. Although AES is fantastic, sometimes we need lightweight cipher. So let's discuss why we need lightweight cryptography in the first place. So we have some evolutionary change in computing and information technology. So initially there were one computer and many users were using the same computer through a terminal, like a monitor and a keyboard. You just use the same computer. So then what happened is that personal computers arrived. So one user had one computer at home, a desktop. But nowadays, we have many computers, but by computers, I'm including every device that can do computations here. So we have desktops and laptops, but we have mobile phones, tablets, smartwatches, and now air fryers and so on. Everything is connected to each other, and they can perform operations. So for this reason, we need encryption, right? But many IoT systems run on resource-constrained platforms. For example, mobile tokens without batteries, RFIDs, or medical implants that do not allow change of batteries because you have to, perform the surgery again and again if you want to replace the battery. So you need good algorithms that doesn't consume that much of energy, right? So many IoT devices are extremely cost sensitive because they are deployed in high volumes. So, if you can make it 1 cent cheaper, and you will earn a lot of money during the production. For this reason, people prefer not to provide any security in the first place. And there's actually not enough regulations because who is responsible for the device security, right? The person who manufactures it, the person who writes the software or the operating system, or the person who sells it, right? Currently, everybody says that they're not responsible for it, so most of the IoT devices does not come with any security in mind. So industry needed actual lightweight crypto for more than 30 years now, and actually it became an active research area in academia over the last 15 years and so on. So thus, industry deployed several proprietary self-made algorithms and many disasters happened. So keylog used in remote keyless entry to your cars, which can be broken easily. MyFair classic cars, which are still very used. Initially, it was used in London metros, like Oyster cards and so on. But people realized that we can clone them easily. So we moved on to other smart cards and so on. So, but all of them, requires good encryption algorithm, right? So cryptographers didn't know it, so they joined the game late. And their initial designs mainly focused on low hardware footprint. But it is not realistic to have a single cipher to satisfy all needs. Actually, for different platforms and for different needs, you need to design it differently. To fit within constrained settings, lightweight ciphers rely on simpler run functions or minimal key schedules. The simpler structure of many of these ciphers may lend itself to new attacks. Actually, we discover new cryptanalysis techniques when we try to break lightweight designs. Then we apply it to other ciphers like AES, and sometimes we see that it really works there too. So it is always a nice idea to work on lightweight designs. There are ISO standards for block ciphers, present Clayfia. These are added in 2012. Leia added to these two in 2019. Okay. So, as I mentioned, their initial designs always focused on low hardware footprint. So these are, some of them became ISO standards. There are some designs which focus on low memory consumption on small embedded processors like this. And there are algorithms which focus on low latency. And there are some algorithms that focus on ease of side channel protection. So instead of designing first and try to provide side channel resistance, these algorithms designed where they keep in their mind to provide security against side channel attack, right? So then it becomes a little bit easier to provide precautions later on. So this is important. Here we are focusing on small devices, like saying embedded devices or constrained devices. So in many papers about IoT, at the introduction, people say this kind of stuff, saying that, with the IoT, the devices are really small and so on. But in the remaining part of the paper, they perform experiments on Raspberry Pi 4, which have 4 cores and even has some versions has 8 gigabytes of memory. So it is not a constrained device. It is like a laptop, right? So here we are really focusing on small devices like the chips on your coffee machine and so on, like 4-bit microcontrollers. or devices which have a few kilobytes or a few hundred bytes of memory and so on. So here is the picture for Clayphia. This is designed by Sony. It is also ISO standard. It is used for digital rights management. And you can see, instead of 2 branches, it has 4 branches compared to this. And so inside F0 and F1, you have S boxes and matrix multiplication, like the case of AES. So present is another example. This time it is SPN. We already briefly mentioned this. So you have the input, you XOR with your round key, 16 identical S boxes. Permutation layer swaps the bits of places. It supports 80-bit and 128-bit keys, but as I mentioned, 80-bit currently does not provide you any security. So you repeat this step 31 times. But we haven't mentioned how the key schedule works. So assume that you have 80-bit secret key. So you write it into the register as the master key. Then you rotate the leftmost 64 bits actually is always your round key. Then you perform operations on this master key register. So first you rotated 19 bits to the right. Then you perform S-box operation on the leftmost 4 bits. Then you add the round constant. Okay. So here is the picture. So this is your 80-bit master key. For the next round key, you perform these operations. Again, leftmost 64 bits becomes your next round key. Okay. So this is a very simple design which works really fast on hardware. So here are some test vectors for you. So if you choose your 80-bit secret key as all zeros in hexadecimal notation, if you implement the algorithm correctly, these will be your round keys. As you can see, the diffusion and confusion is not good. So after even at 10 rounds, you see a lot of zeros here, right? And for the plain text, again, if you choose all zeros, and if you choose the key as in the previous slide, then this will be your round output after first round, second round, third round. As you can see, you cannot obtain good diffusion and confusion in just a few rounds. Even if after a few rounds, you can see some identical stuff. This is why we actually need a lot of rounds to provide security. Okay, you cannot stop at, for instance, at round 4. It would be a lot faster, but it wouldn't be secure. So we needed lightweight cryptography. So industry said that NIST asked academicians and industry people, and people said that we really need a standard, okay? Because most of the time in the IoT setting, we don't have encrypted communication, especially in factories. This is a huge problem. We don't have authenticated encryption. We also need to focus on battery life because some devices, IoT devices, work on battery. And we need to focus on how much energy it needs. Latency is important because sometimes IoT devices want to send a lot of data in a very short time. So latency is the time where you have the data and you obtain the ciphertext, right? It should be really fast. Throughput sometimes important. And side channel resistance is actually the most important one because we generally have physical access to these kind of devices. So you should have solutions against timing attacks, power analysis, and also fault injection attacks. So NIST started a competition. So they wrote a report about it. So they said that their evaluation criteria will be based on their performance and security. Like in the physical, they will focus on how small the area it will require, how small the memory requirements will be, implementation on hardware and software, the energy that it will require. Performance, the metrics are latency, throughput, and power in terms of watts. Here it is joules, by the way. For security, of course, we need to cryptanalysis results to see if the algorithm is secure or not. So this is the timetable. Everything started around 2015, but just a few months ago, Ascom wins the competition, okay? So next month, in June, we are going to have the sixth of these workshops. It will be online, so I recommend you to register and, watch the talk. So this time it will all be all about ASCON and the standardization process, right? Because in the previous workshops, we were providing cryptanalysis results, performance benchmarks, and so on and so forth. Now, since ASCON wins the competition, this time we will talk about ASCON and its variants actually, because after this standardization, we may have further standards based on ASCON design. Okay, to summarize, IoT devices are very different than each other, so it's hard to provide standards for all. Current device production does not focus on security. NIST standardization process is going to take some time, although we have the winner. Probably next year we will have the official document and how the algorithm is defined and so on. Producers should provide their own security solutions until IoT standards are available. We may need different lightweight ciphers for different purposes. Due to their simplicity, lightweight designs may be weak against attack types that are not discovered yet. Lightweight does not mean shorter key. Using short keys provides almost no security. There is no need to use keys shorter than 128 bits, okay? So this is really important. People still say that 80-bit security is enough, but it is not. To finalize, let me show you the current standards. At the IOC side, we have many block cipher standards, and there are 3 lightweight standards. All of these documents are, revised in around 2020 and 2022, and they are still inside the standards. But again, some of the standards use 80-bit key, like present 80. I don't recommend it. At the NIST side, we had 3 block ciphers, but skip check is only supported for legacy use because it uses 80-bit secret key. Also, it is designed by NSA, so you most probably wouldn't prefer to use it. Triple DES, it is supported until 2024. So at NIST side, we will remain only with AES. But since February 2023, we have the ASCON as the lightweight winner. So you will use either AES and ASCON. Of course, NIST says that use AES whenever you can, okay? Only use ASCON when AES is not enough for you.